fam, welcome to another episode of Good, Bad, and Ugly with Jose. I have a great guest for you, a great friend of mine, Miss Niki. How's it going, Miss Niki?
Hey, Jose. So good to see you, my friend. I love that little intro music. It's very
Yeah,
catchy.
you can thank Mando for that. He did my intro for me. So he takes care of me, man. There's one person out there that's like looking out for me, making sure that I grow. It's him. So,
What
um,
was, what was his name again?
Mando, you know Mando.
Mando. Yes, I met.
Yeah,
That's right.
everybody knows
I met him
Mando.
for the first time in the squad up.
This year?
Yes, there
No
there's
way.
400 people. How could I possibly know
Yeah, but I
everybody
mean,
from
me
the
and him
first
hang out
week?
all the time, so I would just assume that
Yeah,
people, if you knew me, you know him because, well, I don't know. Anyway,
that's funny. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm telling. This was the year to really build and continue growing relationships. Because last year, well, we'll go a little more into that.
yes,
Last year
ma'am.
was a lot of challenges and a lot of, introspection and going through the grief and the stress and the hard lessons of, real estate and life in general. So, yeah.
Exactly. So me, for the audience, me and Nikki met. Day of Pace last May
Yes,
9th. We spent the day in Arizona and got to fly a plane, and we just kind of since then kind of growed our relationship and trying to find ways to do deals together. And we you re-upped to Owners Club, so we'll be another year in Owners Club together, which is awesome.
it is. It's so
So
valuable.
as I always start my episodes, if you can share with everybody like your journey, what made you decide to get into real estate?
Love that question. So it started in 2023. Let me just back up a little bit. Um, I had my father passed away in 2022, and then I had to take care of my mother, and they're both in New York. And so the obligation is in my culture, being Greek, you usually have to take care of your elderly parents. And because my sister also had cancer and was not able to care for my mother, and my aunt also was sick, and so was my uncle, then if it came up to me to
Yeah,
take care of my mom. So I had to bring her here to Las Vegas because of course, I'm the only one that lives out of state. Because if you've ever been around immigrant families, I'm a first generation immigrant, they don't change.
right.
Change does not come easy. You have the same phone number since like 1980, same address, same everything. So actually, that house that my parents were in was the very same house we got when we came to the United States. So what happened is I took care of her for several months. It got to be very, very stressful, very difficult because it really fell on just me. I had no other family, and I had to pay with the help of, mom's finances as well. I had to take care of everything, all her medical, all the, because she couldn't really communicate effectively either. So I had to handle everything. Very hard time. So from that, it worked out that my sister, who was in a facility, moved from one facility to another one that was a lot better and had a great staff. And so by August of 2023, I was able to bring her back out there and give her the care she needed, because someone with dementia, my mother had dementia, they need round the clock kind of supervision. Even though she could walk, she could still, she would forget like changing her clothes, or she would argue, no, no, I already wore this. No, I already showered. No, I've already done this. And, it was very stressful for me because I still work full time. And my
Right.
entire life became just taking care of her and taking her everywhere with me. I could not leave her alone for a significant amount of time in my house because I also have a stairwell. And so, yeah, God worked it out that, you know, was able to bring her out there because my health started to be affected significantly. And from there, the money from the estate, because I grew up in the Hamptons, land is very, very valuable out there. It doesn't matter how awful the house looks, it's the land. So that's
Right.
like the house my parents were in had fallen into neglect and a little disrepair because my father by then had been sick and he would just stay downstairs and do nothing. And my mom by then, she had her dementia, and the house was just, it was not fit for, let's just say it wasn't really fit for showing to any prospective clients. So what ended up happening, thankfully, is a builder came in through an agent and bought the whole property. We have 1.3 acres.
Oh,
And
nice.
in the watermill, that amount of land goes for about 1 million, if not a little more. By that time, the market was starting to slide down, but we were able to get a very decent price. And then, unfortunately, it went into probate. And so by the time the money was distributed, it was late 2023. And then that's where I decided I want to get involved in real estate. And I was part of the IBC community, Infinite Banking. I think we talked about that. And I spoke with Jim Oliver because I followed them since 2022. And he is the one that gave me the name for Pace, Morby. That's how
Oh,
I found Pace. I didn't do a ton of research online. But he gave me that referral. And when I started looking at his videos, I'm like, oh, he seems very different. And then from there, Pace came out to Vegas like in November. And then that's where I met him. And then that's where I connected with who would become my partner. And from that point, like a few weeks later, I decided, okay, yeah, I'd like to partner up with somebody that has some of the knowledge. And that's what happened. I let him sort of lead it, so to speak. He presented me a deal in a property, and I was like, "Yeah, sounds good." I just went with it because he saw my propensity of kindness and my what's the word I'm looking for, and my impressionability. I was open to working with anything pretty much. I didn't have due diligence. I'll admit that because, yeah, now looking back, of course, now I know, and hard experiences are the best teacher. But what ended up happening over the course of some time, because it took me a little time, the property, it was a larger property. It was bought as a sub two, and it was a co-living property. And what he wanted to do is to put more of the homeless or disadvantaged into the house. Initially, I didn't want that, because I was just starting out. I wanted to do maybe a pad split. And that's where, things didn't work out. We didn't come to an agreement. And I just finally said, fine, let's just do it the way you want to do it. And then through the course of time, it just didn't improve. I tried what I could to make things work. I handled the finances. I tried, managed all the tenant relations. I did my part as best as I could, and learned as I went because he taught me some of it. But I had, a lot of it was just learning, like setting up the accounts, utilities, and all that. I already knew how to do some of that stuff, my own property. Um, and then, yeah, at the time I met you, I was still kind of like in the throes of it, and it became what a good partnership should be is complete collaboration, communication, one supporting the other, constant feedback, encouragement, uplifting, looking at the problems together, and coming in when there are problems and helping one another out. And that's not really what happened. It became a very, very stressful thing. So by the time we got to, I think, was it summertime? Around July, there was even one instance where he made me take one tenant over to to the ER to get her meds, because she had a medical, and she was saying, I'm fine for a couple more days. I have my doctor's appointment, but he kept pushing me to do this. And that's kind of like where the straw almost broke the camel's back, so to speak. And I was like, this is not what I signed up for. I am not here to, and with medical conditions, you have to be very careful because we were not, medically licensed. This was just supposed to be a co-living for people to share different rooms together, right?
Nikki, hold on 1 second. Someone's at the door. Hold on. There we go.
Okay.
Sorry.
So yeah, no worries. And so it came to a point where I realized that there was just no salvaging this. And by September, if you recall the conversation we
Yep.
had, by that point, I decided to just try to work things out and try to get out of the partnership and out of the lopsided contract. And what's significant here is because you spoke to Jerry previous to our Zoom, and he mentioned that specifically at Squad Up,
Yep.
how not to do lopsided contracts, how to stop looking for taking advantage of others and just do business right. And so that's what I was trying to come to a resolution with him is let's work it out. Let's try to. I was trying to recoup my initial investment because I might not have gone over this. I was a private money partner, so I financed the whole thing, and I only got a small piece of the pie, in terms of equity in the split. And so
Right.
I was trying to, increase that because he did not put anything except the expenses that we both split on the property. So when counting everything together, this would come to now about $75,000, all said and done.
Okay.
And so over the course of the months, I had attempted to work things out, but he, for the most part, did not communicate with me, did not want to um, work things and resolve things in a ethical or respectful manner. And so at this point, I just come to a point in my life, and I've talked to a few other investors who've been in the industry a while. With a situation like this, it's the best course of action is just to take it as a lesson and walk away. And really, that's all that can be done with someone who is completely unwilling to work it out. If they're that set against it and they double down against you with
Right.
accusations and with intimidation, with gaslighting, with even to the point sometimes of just saying, "Hey, I'm going to come after you instead" with a lawsuit, which hasn't happened. But a lot of that is just ego driven, and it's been a lesson and a very important lesson. So I just want to go over this experience, not to bash anybody. I am going over this experience to let others know who are starting in this industry what to look out for. When someone approaches you or wants to work with you, get to know them a little more. Don't feel rushed. Don't feel like you have to do anything you're not comfortable with. And make sure that things are in writing, that you're able to look at things on paper and bring it to a business advisor or even a lawyer to review everything for you and make sure you're comfortable. Always follow your gut instinct. So you don't have to go into partnerships in this business, but that was the path I chose because I work and I don't have a lot of time and I wanted to be able to just say, "Oh yeah, I got a property and and I have a partnership." But it's very important to look at all the components and work on that relationship. A lot of people can make promises and tell you anything, but what really comes down to is how good are those contracts? Does the cash flow? Is there equity in this? And what is this something you want to do? Are you comfortable with it? So get clear also on the type of strategy you want to start with, and that's why I'm explaining this. It's not to put anyone down. It's just to educate and to provide some precautions in this business because as wonderful of a community as Pace has put together, there will be a few people like that, that look to get what they can out of it and take what they can as well. And so that has been my experience. Plus, I do have a private money lending deal that is separate from this partner I'm talking about. This was completely another investor, and this one was completely out of our control. It was more on the borrower side. So the money, it was a gap funding for a property in Pennsylvania, and this one was about 40,000. And so we expected it would be 4 to 5 months, but this was a rebuild and a renovation. In other words, this apartment building in Pennsylvania had to get gutted out and an additional garden terrace floor was being added to this building. So it was a complete redesign.
Right.
Had I known, of course, now that I know what I know, something like that you should know will always take longer, of course.
Yeah.
And so what happened in the course of this is they sort of kept running into roadblocks. In the beginning, it was regulation, of course, red tape, bureaucracy. The city inspector took took 4 months just to approve it.
Yeah.
And from there, yeah, then it started, and then there were other additional, like, oh no, you need to get your neighbors okay, oh no, you need to do this as well. And then the borrower started running into some personal family stuff as well, and would not communicate towards the end. And by the time we hit the holidays, we knew, okay, holiday time, people don't do stuff. And by that point, I was going through a lot of stress and grief too, because I had just come back from, visiting my aunt. I had missed out on the Boston retreat with Owners Club, and I was with her for 3 weeks. She was still able to kind of move around a bit, but I was helping her with everything else that I could, with cleaning. And she did some of the cooking early in the morning, and then she would go back to bed and do her oxygen. So, I would help with the shopping and do a lot of the things, and just, you know, just going through some of that difficult family stuff, some of the guilt and the shame and all the past stuff coming up. Well, I tried as best as I can to just be there for her, and be a good niece to her, and not react to some of the, you know, the shame and the guilting and all of that from our past. Like, why weren't you there? Why didn't you do this? And yeah, and it was overall a good thing, because she saw that for the most part I was there for her, not
Right.
so much for my mom, because again, it was a family dynamics, sibling rivalries.
Sure.
Oh, you came for your mom? No, I came for you because you asked me to. So I was going through all of this. Very, very, very difficult time mentally for me. So it was very hard for me to reach out to other investors and say, hey, I'd really like to get some traction here. And, because Pace was giving us homework, and it was
Yeah.
like, and I've always been taught, do your homework. I come from, that mentality. I was very good at school. I did
Yeah.
very well. I didn't do very well in life, though. I didn't have street smarts, but I had book smarts. So if you tell me to do something, and I'm like, oh man, and then like, I don't want to let Pace down. And then I would see Ann McNamara, and I would see Tracy Gunn, and I would see Luz Ramirez and Birdie, all of them just like doing great things and leading the groups. And I'm like, I don't have that. I can't even get myself together right now.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of that too. So it's not all on my partner, so to speak. It was on me too. I was going through some very rough times. And it was hard for me to kind of reach out. And I kind of did reach out a little bit to Owners Club. And some people really did offer me encouragement and stuff like that. But I wasn't clear yet. I needed time. So I had to get a counselor as well to help me sift through some of the mental um, grief that I'm going through, because I am going through grief, because it's sort of anticipatory. Like, I know my aunt's going to die. I know my mom's going to lose her mind eventually, and I can't do anything for my sister. She's struggling. New York won't give her any aid. She's having to pay out of pocket. The money's going to run out, kind of thinking all of that, the scarcity mentality. So
Right.
it very hard shift for me to move from all that, the W-2, the immigrant, you got to save every penny, you got to hold on to everything as best as you can and grow it, slowly. Like, Pace is a complete different mentality. He's like,
Right.
no, that's Dave Ramsey thinking. No, you don't have to live with want. You can create a lot more for yourself, and so I had to shift into that. And it started happening as I got into the new year. I said, okay, let me kind of talk with my counsel. I need a little time to just get some good mindset practices in place and be kind and patient to myself in the process. That's a big one, especially when you make mistakes. And I made them. I made all the mistakes you can in real estate, pretty much, because I had a third deal. This one was for a startup company with Fleshman. Are you familiar with Dan Fleshman?
Mhm.
So I put money into that too. And he's not communicating with me either. Because I'm like, what's going on with this? The ranch, and aren't we supposed to get something quarterly? So I
Yeah.
had a lawyer look at that too. And he's like, yeah, well, you got to secure the loan, and then you might get something back at the end of the first year, because I think it's a 3-year game. And I'm like,
Right.
well, nothing's come from that either. And he's not corresponding with me because I couldn't find anybody on Dan's team. I tried, Elevator Studios. I tried Vanessa. I tried this person. Nobody was getting back to me. None of the numbers worked. So it
Right.
was constant, like 3 deals. I was like, what is the universe telling me? So, so then fast forward, by the time February, I started. Stephanie was always the steady. She's like, I got you. You will not be left behind. I will make sure that you know what a good partnership looks like. And so she hooked me up with Brian, and that's how I connected with his heart mission of helping veterans get proper housing. And he invests in shipment containers, steel containers, and
Okay.
we fabricate them, and he lifts them up also on 7-foot stilts, because in Houston there's flood areas. So,
Right.
and he has a partner that he works with as well. I think he's got a couple besides Stephanie. He works with a local partner. And so by the time um, uh, Stephanie had already gone out and met him, and shared with him all her knowledge of how to bring in the local agencies to help bring in a constant flow of veterans, so they're not just left on the streets, or you're not just pulling them directly off the streets into a container. There needs to be some vetting and eligibility, making sure there's no addiction issues, or working through PTSD. So that's why you need the agencies, and they're the ones who are going to say, yes, we got this person for you, and we can cover their rent as well. We have the voucher program, which there's one voucher program sort of that's an interim one before they qualify for HUD-VASH, and then HUD-VASH then covers your entire rent. So you don't have to worry about, like, the things I dealt with is with people not paying. I had to kick two or
Right.
three people out for non-payment, and every month we never made more than a PITI. We were never able to catch up. A couple of times we broke even, but we never cash flowed. So he has all these in place, like, where it cash flows now,
Right.
because they deserve to have a place, and they want a place where they can live, and share with others too, because some of them have no family either. They're just left out in the streets. Once you come back from military, as you know, a lot of them are just left to their own devices.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that mission, and I love his heart behind it. And of course, I spent time with Brian as well, and I got to see and catch up again with Stephanie when we went to Squad Up. And that's where I met Mondo, and I saw Rhea. I got to see her again, and it was a wonderful, yeah, just a wonderful reconnection with some people and connection with some new people as well. So that's where I started thinking. And then last month, I was like, okay, I spoke with Jesse Stanton. He's one of the newer owners club, and he has a company called Growth Company, and he helps people find their skill sets, and how it can work together to kind of get towards traction and income.
Right.
So that's where I finally kind of had the aha moment, like, what am I good at? What do I do every day? And you know what it is? I do wellness through nutrition. Every single day, I am committed to making good and clean foods. And it has turned my health around 180%.
Oh
Because,
wow. Good.
yes, because I have a chronic condition. And when I started in real estate, it was kind of like I'm still trying to figure out what's the best thing, what else that I haven't done can I do? Because up until a few years ago, I've been seeing a functional chiropractor who I still see twice a week, because he helps handle the spine and the neck deterioration, because as we age, we
Sure.
start to develop arthritis and degeneration. So I've been seeing him for 6 years because I was in a lot of pain. I had rheumatoid arthritis. and I was eating wrong, and I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And so through years of kind of finding what works, and I found out I was gluten intolerant, so I started there. And then I would still eat pastas and packaged foods and things like that, even gluten free. And I was put on supplements through my functional chiropractor. So, vitamin D is the absolute foundation of any and all immune support. Everyone should really have vitamin D at some point during the day because, especially in states where there's not enough sunlight, we don't produce enough on our own. Uh,
Right.
but I take a very high amount because of my autoimmune, because autoimmune basically just means your body attacks itself.
Right.
And so that's through my own knowledge. This is what I do every day. I take my supplements. And I used to think, like last year when I was going through my grief and everything, that it's just like, oh, it's just something I do. Oh, when am I going to get moving with real estate? When am I going to do things? When can I make things happen? I would just go through that mental loop. And then I realized, why don't I share this with people? Because there's got to be at least a couple of people in our community and outside and my friends who are struggling with their health the same way I was, who are tired, unmotivated, who get irritated easily. Because when you're not feeding your body properly, your brain is not being fed properly either. So so you get angry a little more easier, or you get upset a lot more easier. Mood swings are a little more severe. Your energy levels are low. Like you have to drag yourself out of bed, and things like that. Like you only do the things that you have to. You don't do the things you really want to. And that became the game changer. It really started with my boyfriend. He helped kind of bring that into my world because we're both huge, huge fans of Dr. Jordan Peterson. I was so happy when Pace brought him to the Owners Club. And I had a book I wanted him to sign, but I was so like, I was afraid that the book would be stolen and lost because I'm like, is Dr. Jordan Peterson even going to spend any time? Like,
Yeah.
And so I didn't approach, but hopefully next time I see him, I will be more proactive. And because one time day with Pace, I gave Pace a book to sign, his book, Wealth Without Cash, to sign it. And it disappeared because he got so busy because he's helping us have a great time and he's everywhere all at
Right.
once, and the book disappeared. So I was like,
That's right.
hey, I bought a new one, and then of course when the time is right I'll ask Pace to sign it again. But
There
yeah,
you go.
this is the kind of energy he has. I mean, he has 1,000 thoughts and actions a minute. There's
Right.
no way in God's green earth I would ever try to keep up with Pace. I know I will not, but I know I have my own way of doing things and my own pace, and I'm very methodical and very organized, but I do things right. I take things, longer to do, but I do things right, and I do right by people as best as I can. So of course Pace does that, but he does that 100 times faster because he's done this so many times.
Yeah.
He's done how many? 5,000 deals? I don't even know. Like somewhere up there.
I'm sure somebody knows what the number is.
I don't, yeah, it's somewhere in the several thousands. So, and like I said, I'm not really a big quantity person. I'm more of a quality. So I'm methodical with real estate too. And that's why now like I am aligning with people who have the right values. And I've been praying and doing a lot of like heart, soul prayer with God through this whole process. And God's just like, just listen, just take it easy, stop stressing, and let me work on it.
Right.
And now that I'm doing it, he's like, okay, here's your gift. My gift is wellness. I'm good at it. I know how to do it and to keep it affordable as well, though. Because when people think of clean, pure foods, yes, you think organic, but not necessarily just organic. With eggs, you have to look at pasture raised. You have to look at, with beef, you have to look at grass fed. So I changed to what's known as a paleo diet or an autoimmune protocol diet as well, and that has changed the game. It's cut out all the starchy carbs, all the packaged foods, no more bars, no more cereals. Pancakes, a little bit once in a while. Paleo makes a mix of, but pancakes, cupcakes, cakes, desserts, puddings, none of that. All out, gone. French fries I'll do once in a while as a treat, Pizza, I will only do if it's in a cauliflower crust with a pesto base. Tomato sauces are inflammatory. Stay away from tomatoes, zucchinis, not zucchini, I mean eggplants, and sugar, of course. But
Yeah.
those are the foods to stay away from. So my thinking is, let me show people what I do, and then at some point I can create more content and funnel it to a point where if you really want me to show you how to do it right and how to do it well, how to organize your pantry, how to keep away from the tempting foods, especially if you have kids. It's going to be harder when you have kids, right? Because they're not going to eat paleo. It's boring. It's mostly animal proteins, healthy fats, and just some carbs, some fruits and vegetables, and a few nuts, and only three oils: avocado oil, olive oil, and coconut oil are the absolute healthiest and the best oils to stick with. Everything else, sunflower, canola oils, grapeseed oils, they're bad for you. Seed oils are not good for you. They're processed at
Makes
very
sense.
high temperature. And so they affect your system, and they affect your health, and they affect your gut. And that's what I'm looking to do, is to partner up also to align with someone else who has health and fitness. And my dedication to wellness is also attached to my Mount Everest, because at some point I want to be able to affect 500 lives in this way, to help bring wellness where they can do business, real estate, career, family better. When you feel better, you can do so much more, and you just feel good. And everything comes easier when your body feels is balanced and well nourished. So the best rest comes from a well nourished vision and a body. If
There
you
you go.
quote from Dr. George, the body has to be nourished as well. You cannot treat it like a garbage bin or a takeout, because it will catch up with you. I know there's a few, super workaholics in owners club that go, 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 go. But you have to slow down. You have to eat right. And it's a commitment, and it's not convenient. But I can, of course, show you how to make it a part of your life. You just have to pre-plan the foods and pack them into containers and just hit the road, and your body will thank you. It really will. You will start to feel better. Your skin gets clearer, your mind gets more focused, and I can start lifting weights now. I never used to be able to do that with rheumatoid arthritis. I couldn't braid my hair. I couldn't do simple tasks. I couldn't open jars. Now I'm doing, like, yoga. I'm doing stretches and weights. I can do a lot more now because my body is better, because I treat it well. So
Right.
that's my passion. And of course, I can tie it into real estate, like check in with the wellness of your own real estate. How is your business doing? You have to balance your business as well, just like your diet. Is it offering the proper nutrients? Are you bringing in the things you need to bring in? Are you putting your time where you're most effective? Things like that. And then eventually, as I continue to grow in real estate, I will add it in. But for now, it's wellness, and that's what I do best, and that's what I know the most about. And I cannot wait to share it with more people. And I guess your video is going to help do that. So I appreciate you for helping me
Appreciate you.
vocalize this, because I do it every single day. It was second nature, and I just didn't even think about how can I give back with what I have right now. Because right now
Right.
my money's been deployed, so I can help people show how to do wellness, and I can also connect people. I'd love to connect people to if it's not a right deal for me, I can connect it. Maybe you like it, or maybe it's good for Jesse, or maybe Stephanie will like it, or maybe Ashley would like it, or or Brenda, or anyone others who I know do some lending, or those who I know do a lot of lead generation and have leads that they don't know who to send to. So yeah, we're all kind of conduits if we just allow ourselves to say, oh yeah, how can I help? Even if I don't make money on this right now, how can I be of help to somebody, and create that relationship where they trust you? And then eventually, when you do business together, if it comes to that, then you know exactly what the other needs, and you're going to make sure it's a win-win situation where both of you make something that you're happy with, and everybody wins. That's the thing too. I guess if there's a message I want to say is there's enough room for everybody to win. For the
Agree.
takers out there, my message is there's always going to be enough. And if you take from somebody, eventually the universe comes around, it will be taken from you. So be careful what you do because people are watching. And when you do good, people are also watching. I do the same thing behind closed doors that I do in public. I'm not that different. I am who I am. I will be an empath. I will be compassionate. I will still care. And I may get hurt again, but for the most part, I know I'm going to align with the right people and do the right business because that's where my heart is. I cannot change who I am, nor do I want to.
Nobody wants you to change, Nikki.
That's who God created me to be. And the
Exactly.
beautiful thing is God is bringing those people to me, and it's a step-by-step process. The growth has been immense. So as I've shifted now to an entrepreneur mindset, it's huge. And the problems are going to be huge and complex too. When you're an entrepreneur, they're not going to be the same as my job. The only problem sometimes I have with my job is, oh hey, I'm missing $20 from my paycheck, or oop, I missed that claim. Okay, let me revisit that one. Let me fix that because I do problem solving for my job as well. So I handle baggage claims for Allegiant Airlines. So for those who need travel tips, I can help in that arena as well. I do know quite a bit about travel and I do know how to resolve issues. So I'm also very good with conflict resolution. So that's why I would be a very good fit within a team as well, because I can find the solution in the chaos. And I am very good at organizing and bringing things together because I care to do the right thing. And I want, again, everyone to win.
Right.
So, yeah,
Well, you
that's what.
shared with us your almost, I would say, your good and your bad stories already. What are some maybe red flags that you would want to make sure that people that are watching this would look out for so that they can protect themselves that you wish you had known before, when you first started?
Yeah, yes. So on the lending side, it's important to have the right questions in place. Like, where is my money going to be placed? What are you using the money for? How is my money being secured? How long of a time frame do you need it? What's the return on this? Get to, because money is a very personal thing. So you have to really be more cautious when you're lending with somebody. Make sure that this is a person that you would be comfortable spending time with. If you're in a different state, get to know them a little more before deciding to commit to anything, and make sure you put all the what ifs in the contract. Because worst case scenario with lending is, what if the property goes into foreclosure? Get familiar with foreclosure laws in other states. Be very familiar with that, and talk to a lawyer if you're not sure. Lawyers are very good at giving you all that information. So if you're doing a lending contract, there needs to be a couple of key components. There needs to be a disclosure in the contract. There needs to be a deed of trust also, because if they default and they can't pay you back, then you need to have that property as collateral. And then there should be the terms also. And then there needs to be yeah, the contingencies. What happens if? So all these little, you know clauses need to be there to have a nice solid contract. And then of course, if things go well and you do really well, and you like how you work together, then what happens is the lenders who do really well in this business are the ones who work together again and again, because now you've built that trust. So in my case with the borrowers, they're not bad people. It's just that these uncontrollable situations caused a major delay. But now it's only getting them to the finish line and saying, okay, now we've hit, 14 months. Let's see what we can get moving. Let's see, let's take a look at the hard money, the hard money loan. Because if that falls through, then, we have to take over the property and then find other lenders to cover that hard money loan, you know
Right.
or otherwise, worst case scenario, what if they declare bankruptcy as well or foreclose? Then we lose. That's where
Right.
you lose your money. And
And that's why a lot
but
of people want to be in first
yeah,
position.
I think we can work it out on this one. I think. And but yes, that's my word of warning for those who do lending. And then on the private money partner side, almost the same thing. Like, make sure that the terms are negotiable, that you look that you're comfortable depending on how much you put in. If you are going to be a private money partner and you're financing the bulk of the finances and you're financing most of it, and you know and covering closing costs and things like that, you should have at least 50%. No less. 50%, people.
Yeah.
But again, make sure that you're comfortable with the person who's presenting you the deal. How good do you feel about this person? Are they being forthright? Are they answering your questions earnestly? Are they pressuring you? Are they just talking about all the things that they did and do and they're good at? Are you able to look them up online just to double check? Because sometimes, people have done financial no-nos, and sometimes they might come up on public record.
Right.
So do a Google search as well, just to be sure, and ask around. Talk to a few other investors. That's why we're in a community. So and that's what Pace encourages. He said it. He himself has said it doesn't matter if they're my cousin, if they've lived with me. Always verify, check everything, and double check again just to make sure, and then trust. Triple verify, then you can trust. So yeah, that's my footnote, because of course, as I said, I've gone through it, and
Right.
I'm still here, and I'm okay. I'm alive.
Woo-hoo!
Woo woo! And I've come through the other side of the storm with a lot more wisdom. I have no resentment. I have no hate. Just want to make that clear for anyone who may misinterpret some of what I'm trying to say. There is no hate.
Right.
In fact, what I have learned after realizing what I'm good at is, like, he really was a lesson. Both these deals that kind of went south were a necessary lesson for me, what to look for those,
Yeah.
like you said, the red flags, like the hurdles that come up on the road. And so really, I thank him. I thank him. And he knows who he is. And some people know who he is as well. So I thank him for this. You have taught me a valuable, extremely important lesson. So that way, my experience can be someone else's education.
Sure.
So let me be that guinea pig, because that's what I did. I came into it as a guinea pig. So now I am well versed. I'm definitely more educated. I've had deals come to me that I've turned away. I said, no, no, thanks. I've had them vetted by others. And so, yeah, I have had deals come my way that I've said, nah, I don't feel 100% on this one. Because remember, I didn't go through sub two. I
Right.
was, yeah, I didn't do the whole in depth, contracts and all that schooling. But
Right.
I'm learning by watching online, by looking at deals, by asking questions. So I have learned some of it.
Right.
And actually, yeah, if I'm going to get into creative, I do like the idea of seller finance. And so ultimately, what I would like to do, I think you asked me before we started the video, what are some of my needs? I would like to be able to connect people to the right deals. I would like to, for myself on the asset side, I would like a little more of a diversified portfolio. So I'm not all about co-living. I'm not all about business acquisition. I'm not all about RV parks, but I would love to have one RV park and a business act and maybe one or two single family homes in my portfolio over the
Yeah.
next year. So I would like that, but it's not like my only strategy. I know some in the OC community, they have such a great, amazing looking buy box and lending box. Yeah, and with my lending, I do have a little more of a parameter. So I would prefer things that are a year or under a year. I'm comfortable with, you know, 10% annualized. I'm willing to negotiate depending on the structure of the deal. I would prefer not to do rebuilds ever again, or complete, ground up projects, because I know
Right.
how long those can take. So I would rather do, like Chris Chef is working with an excellent borrower that's doing finished boutique projects, and he's really excellent, and the money always is like, he uses it for whatever time he needs it, always brings it back, because he has such a great turnaround in his businesses. and he has finished product. So yeah, your money goes into escrow, of course. I don't think I have to put that in my lending box, but I want to make sure the money is usually goes into escrow. That's always the safest place. That's another thing I meant to say before. Always make sure your money goes into an escrow account, never to someone's personal account. And usually it's a second lane position, because usually the mortgage, depending on the deal, usually it's the mortgage itself or the hard money lender that has first position.
Right.
So I know there are some who want first lane position, but those are more transactional. I'm not as versed in the transactional EMD type of lending because that involves a larger sum of money, but your money comes back a lot quicker. So eventually, I would love to move towards that as well, because I do know a few key people that do very well in it, and they're wonderful, and I keep in touch with them too.
Awesome.
So yeah, on the lending, I do have a little more of a criteria. So I look at that now a lot more carefully because again, it's money is very personal to people, and it's like giving a precious heirloom to somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
So if somebody was watching this that wanted to maybe partner with you or bring you a deal, how would they get in contact with you?
Oh yes. So my Instagram handle is Niki Lives Well. My phone number, you can contact me at 702-302-2787. I do have a landing page. I'm still working on it. It's, Heather Grizzard, thank you. She helped me on that. I need to now add more of the wellness and I need to fine tune it, but it is investwithniki.com. I know it's not original.
All right.
It's a start, but that's where you can also submit deals through that, investwithniki.com.
Okay.
There's a separate form for RV, a separate one for single family, and a separate one for business acquisitions. And by the way, I love what Benjamin and Leah are doing. They're doing a fractional with business acquisitions.
Right.
And right now, I wanted to get involved with that too, but I just don't have enough right now. But more is coming next month as some of
Cool.
the interest starts coming out of a couple of deals I have. I should be getting some of that money coming in by next month. So which will be nice because then there's that whole proof of concept that
Exactly.
come through with real estate. Yes. Yep. And it's I'll be happy. And then with wellness, I would like to do that too. I'd like to provide that value to somebody. And then, for my time charge, I don't know, monthly or something like that, where I can just go and walk through everything, the shopping lists and the budget that they're going to need and some of the supplements and where to buy quality supplements and everything down to I have it down to a science.
Perfect. Well, for the people that are watching this, I'll have all of Nikki's contact information down below.
Thank you,
And
Jose.
yeah, of course.
You're
And I am
awesome.
on two different platforms. So if you're watching this on YouTube, go over to Spotify, same channel, Good, Bad, and Ugly about real estate there. So that way, when you're at the gym and you want to just listen to something, you can put it on it as you're on the treadmill or running the track. So, Niki, thank you so much for coming out and spending
Thank
time
you.
with me and sharing your journey and
Thank you so much.
passing on some wisdom to people about nutrition. I greatly appreciate it. And to the fam, we'll see you in the next video.
Yes.
All
Goodbye.
right, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Love you all.
Peace.
All right. Peace.